All right, guys. Our next guest is one half of one of the best gyms in the entire sport, Jackson Winkeljohn. He trains the best fighters in the world on a daily basis, guys like Cowboy Cerrone, Jon Jones, Condit, Alistair Overeem, of course, Holly Holm, Coach Mike Winkeljohn. Welcome back to Submission Radio. How's it going today?
It's good. It's a good day. Thanks for having me, guys.
We love having you on the program, Mike, and we've got a lot to talk to you about. So let's get straight into it. Donald Cerrone is fighting welterweight again, and this time it's against Kelvin Gastelum at UFC 205. When this move to 170 first happened, did you expect it to last this long, and did you expect Cowboy to make it this far in the division?
Oh, you know what? I expect Cowboy to go as far as he wants to do it. When Cowboy's serious, he's pretty much unstoppable. You know, when he decides to turn on and gets focused, he just destroys people. Cowboy's also real high intellect, and he knew that he was having a hard time with the weight cuts for many, many reasons. And just it made sense, and it's been proven now with his fights.
Just curious, what would you say some of those reasons have been as far as him struggling with those weight cuts? Because it wasn't ever anything noticeable. I don't think it was anything anyone really spoke about. Why were they so tough for him?
They were just always tough for him. From a lot of internal things that I can't let go. He's always had a hard time with some of the cuts. He didn't really complain about it, but you can see the struggles, as a lot of fighters had. But it was not easy for him to make the 155 pound division. He can do it. He probably would be more than happy to do it again for a title shot. He's very capable of it, but he's just so much more relaxed and focused at 170. He's just destroying people, so I like him there.
What's the biggest difference that you think you've seen in him since he's moved up to 170? Is he sort of happier at certain points in training? Is he moving better because he doesn't have to do that weight cut? Are there any noticeable differences that you can see?
I think he's even more focused, and because of the weight cut, he's not worried about gassing out, so he feels the ability to let go. He's been also working a lot more on different angles and a little bit more movement. Brandon Gibson, one of our coaches, has been putting a lot of time into his movement and has helped him improve quite a bit.
And Six Gun Gibson obviously does a phenomenal job with a lot of the fighters there. Just wondering, you said that he might go down to 155 for a title shot. I think a lot of people kind of thought that he would always go back to 155 at some point, but are you saying it's not necessarily the case, that he might not go down there just for contender fights or fun fights? Would it only be for a title shot?
Well, you know, here's the deal. Cowboy will fight at any time. But it's hard to be walking around bigger and then take those fights. As Cowboy says, I know a guy, it's hard to take a fight at 55 when the last minute type of fight, and Cowboy's that kind of guy. He accepts fights at last minute. So I would assume the 170-pound fights are just easy for him that way. But if he's got some time to train and if it's the right fight, I'm sure Cowboy's up for any challenge.
What goes through your mind? Because recently we saw that he tried to get onto UFC 203 because of that elevator accident. What goes through your mind when you see, Cowboy, or he tells you, hey, coach, by the way, there might be a chance I might be fighting tomorrow? Because obviously you're a busy man yourself. The coaching stuff has a lot of stuff going on. Is it a situation where you're like, you tell your wife, okay, I might be flying up to Cleveland, or I might be going here, or you freak out going, oh man, we have to prepare on a day's notice? What happens when these things happen? Because Cowboy does this quite a lot from what we understand.
Yeah, he does. You know what? It's one of those things that, Greg will jump on a plane immediately and corner him stuff. Brandon Gibson was ready to corner him right away. And so it's not really something that Brandon Gibson has taken over a lot of my job with the stand-up with him because of all the traveling. And, Brandon he does the same kind of stuff we do. He's a genius himself, and it's helped. So it hasn't caused a problem for me with Cowboy doing it. I expect him to do those things, and the whole team supports him when he does.
I feel like there's a protocol at Jackson Winkeljohn Gym. Like every building and work site has fire safety and things like that. There's like a Cowboy protocol, like what happens in the event of a last minute Cowboy matchup. Everybody's got a separate phone, like the Cowboy phone's calling. Everybody quick book a plane ticket. The original opponent for this fight though was obviously, the former champion Robbie Lawler. Now it's Kelvin. What matchup did you prefer, Mike? Who do you think is the tougher test for Cowboy?
Well, it's a little different. I think that which one I prefer. The Robbie Lawler fight, I would have been, I think, the higher notoriety type of fight for Cowboy, and I think he was up for the task. I think it wasn't going to be easy. He's a left-hander that throws hard and has the ability to go forward. But, you know what? Cowboy's just there. He's just able to fight everybody. His wrestling's on point. He can tap anybody out on the ground. He's just good everywhere, and everybody is always amazed at his striking.
So the huge fight, UFC 205, Kelvin Gastelum. If he beats Kelvin Gastelum, no real prediction of where he's going next. No feeling whether he's going lightweight or staying in welterweight. If you had to choose, do you think he sticks around at welterweight if he does beat Kelvin?
If I had to choose, I think so. Unless they offer him the right type of money fight to go back to 155.
While we're talking, obviously, about 170 in the welterweight division, we want to go back to UFC on Fox 21, where Carlos Condit returned to competition after a 7-month layoff against Demian Maia. A lot of people have wondered about this. How would you compare Carlos's headspace going into that fight compared to when he fought Robbie for the title? Because some people felt that by feeling like he was so close to retirement, in some ways, he may have mentally checked out. Did he have the same focus leading into that fight?
I thought he did. I think Carlos Condit, if he's focused, can beat anybody in the world. So there's no doubt there was a little lack of focus. Exactly what it was, I'm not sure. But that wasn't the Carlos Condit that we all know. It just he had one of those nights where he turned, and normally Carlos is such a tough individual that he tries not to give his back to anybody.
We didn't really get to see how the fight would have played out. What was the game plan going into that fight?
Oh yeah, they're definitely a little movement. Get off first, make him fear the shot, make him worry about shooting in, and at first the first combination that Carlos threw worked out really well. We just hesitated, and one of those things that is getting Carlos's head to believe to get off first or have that sense of urgency as he got close to the cage. And then some other things that happened when he was in half guard, and underneath him he got hit a little bit. And who knows, what goes through a fighter's head at those moments. Carlos has been in so many battles that you can't second guess Carlos anything, because he's a legend of the sport as far as toughness goes, and as far as skill level wise. It's really hard from the outside to know what's going on in a fighter's head sometimes.
How tough would you say that sort of was for you, seeing obviously the preparation that you put Carlos through for weeks and months, and then for it to all sort of finish that quickly, and knowing what Carlos has been and how sort of quickly he or how long he's been wanting that title? How tough was that for you?
It's not tough for me because I'm worried about time and effort I put into it. I in my mind, I'm upside down to Carlos Condit. He took me on such a great journey over his career so far that putting time and effort into something is not even it's not a problem for me. My heart went out to Carlos. He's trying to get back to the title. I think he got robbed with and he was so close with George. Got robbed with Robbie, and he's got a family to feed. He's got a future to go forward, and he was all in. And so my heart went out to Carlos. So for me, except for what I did to Carlos, it doesn't bug me the slightest, putting time into helping that young man.
I mean, the obvious question now is what's going to be happening in his future. Do you think that might have been the last time that we get to see him compete in the UFC or fight?
I don't know. Carlos just had a baby, and so he's doing a family thing, and he's focused on what's really important in life. And so I'm sure he'll revisit it, down the road. But right now, I know he's taking care of what is the most important thing in life.
I know this would sort of be a long ways down the road. We don't know if he'll ever fight again. I mean, obviously, given their age and experience in the sport, this sort of fight between him and Maia was looked at as the last chance for either guy to put together a title run. Do you think that if hypothetically he were to come back, would you still be confident that he can work his way back to another title shot?
Oh yeah. Again, like I said, if he wants it, and he has the drive for it, he's got the time. He's definitely got the skills. He definitely has the heart. He just got to decide what he wants to do with his future. Carlos does not want to get hit in the head anymore. Thank God for that. That he's mature enough to understand that he wants to get this sport with taking as least amount of damage as possible. But he's very capable of beating anybody in the world. If he decides he wants to do it, I know I'm going to support him.
Any chance that there might be a transition over to him becoming one of the coaches down at Jackson Winkeljohn's? I mean, he's been around there for a really long time. He knows the fighters really, really well. He has a wealth of experience, obviously, working with you and a lot of the other great coaches. Do you think there's any chance maybe he becomes one of the great coaches of MMA now that he's been one of the great fighters? He could become one of the great coaches, such as yourself.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, first off, he can aspire to be a lot more than a coach. Let me tell you that much. Carlos is I know he's got his real estate license and he's got a lot of things going for him. He's very smart business wise, so he's capable of so much. If he decided he wanted to be a coach, I'm sure he could be one of the best out there. But I wouldn't want to have that discussion, so I know if he wants to fight again.
All right, let's move on to some more recent events. Alistair Overeem, he got his dream and fought for the UFC heavyweight title against Stipe Miocic at UFC 203. One thing we noticed about Alistair was how just unequivocally confident he looked heading into the bout. We imagine, obviously, the training had a lot to do with it. Was this the most well-prepared Alistair you've seen since he's been at Jackson Winkeljohn's?
Oh, in many ways, he was very well prepared. In a couple ways, he wasn't behind the scenes. But you saw what happened. Alistair he was going to use his movement and his mind. It was going to work, and it did. The whole failure of the whole fight really was he decided to jump on a guillotine instead of just punching him some more. And sometimes it's those little decisions that are wrong that make a big difference. At the same time, Stipe is so strong. He keeps knocking people out. I mean, that's why he's a world champ.
You mentioned that in some ways he wasn't the best prepared. Now that it's the fight's already happened, obviously Stipe's not going to take advantage. What were some of the ways that things weren't ideal?
Well, I think we didn't put enough time into having him after he gets the first strike and continuing with the second or third. We've been working a lot on footwork stuff, and his coaches got some great coaches that are helping him out, working on the movement and kind of a stick and move type of situation, and probably just not enough follow-up that I would have liked to have seen. And so, I take that blame on myself that I didn't oversee making sure we follow up a little bit more. But with that being said, everything that had been trained in practice, everything that all of his coaches had done worked out very, very well in the fight. It was just a split-second type of thing that happened, and then he threw a kick where he posted down on his leg after the kick instead of keeping his balance, and it gave Stipe access to take him down. So again, it's like I said, it's a game of inches. It's heavyweights. My goodness, they hit so hard that you never know what's going to happen.
I've always wondered about this because we were watching the Embeddeds, and he has that big team of coaches, and then obviously you and Greg work with him and a lot of the guys at Jackson Winkeljohn's as well. How exactly does that work? How do you guys all work together? Because some people will say, hey, look, maybe too many cooks in the kitchen. How do you guys keep that process streamlined where there's not too many different things being thrown at him and he has enough time to sort of pick things up and focus on what's important?
Well, with a lot of fighters, that would be a problem. But with Alistair, as many fights he has and as smart as he has, he listens to everybody. And then he himself really picks and chooses what he thinks is going to be best. As we get closer to the fight, then we get more intense on what we think is best for him. And he's going to believe it or not. Like all fighters, they're going to take what they believe in, and what they don't believe in, they're not going to use. And as coaches, we've got to understand that and make sure that we're doing reps on what they believe in, because that will be successful in the cage. And don't waste time on calling out or asking to do things that he doesn't believe in. That would just be a waste of time and or put him in the wrong position in the fight.
I know, obviously, you guys and Alistair, you didn't get the desired end result, and obviously you didn't win the belt, but do you sort of consider it a personal victory that you and Greg were, really able to turn Overeem's career around and take him through this career resurgence that he's had recently?
I can't take any credit for any of it and stuff, but I'm proud of what he's done for himself, turning himself around. His movement has gotten so much better. The conditioning aspect has gotten so much better. He's improved in so many ways, and he'll get another shot at the title. He's going to win that title. Alistair Overeem is not done.
Okay, well, there was a moment after the fight when Alistair was being interviewed and claimed that Stipe tapped to a guillotine. The replay showed there was no tap, and now Joe Rogan has said that he will never interview a concussed fighter immediately after a fight. You once told us on the show that you regret taking as many shots in your career as an active fighter. What do you think about that? Should a fighter be interviewed immediately after he suffered a knockout?
That's a tough one. You know what? Yeah, that is true. You know, fighters sometimes they don't even know their own name at the moment. They don't remember what happened. So that's a tough one. I don't have an answer for it because the fans want to hear the guy talk, and sometimes the fighter themselves want to talk. So I'm not sure. There's advantages and disadvantages to it. People want to hear what he has to say, or she has to say, and so I really don't have an opinion on that one.
That's fair enough. You said Alistair Overeem's not done. He'll be back and he'll get that title. At what point or how soon do you think you would like to see him come back? Do you think he can rebound soon, or considering that he did sustain a concussion, would you like to see him maybe take a bit of time off?
Well, you know what? He didn't have any memory lapses, and it was, in my mind, it's more of a mild concussion, so it's more for safety. Taking some time out. He's had a long career. He's been hit a lot. There's no doubt, but he hasn't been, as of late, the kind of fighter that takes a lot of damage at all in the gym. In fact, I'm not sure if he got hit many times at all getting ready for this fight. So I think his brain's going to be fine, and hope to God it is. And he could be back soon. I think Alistair, if he really wanted to, if he doesn't need the time off, if he doesn't want to spend time with family, he could be back by the end of the year, early next year.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, you mentioned the memory lapse, and obviously that he doesn't have any. Is that something that you guys normally check for after a fight? Let's say one of your fighters does lose and get knocked out. Do you check if there's any memory lapse? And was there any situations or moments that you can recall when a fighter has had that?
Oh, yeah. You know what? Fighters will constantly, they'll get knocked out, and then after the fight, you'll go to the locker room, and they'll say, so what happened, coach? And you tell them what happened. And then it's quite comical. It sounds sick to say that. I don't mean it that way, but you know it's going to happen because all the coaches look at each other, because in about 5 minutes, the fighter will say, so what happened? Wow. And it takes a while to get back. And that's when we know that there was a lot of damage that was taken, that's when we get concerned, making sure people take a lot of time off and just giving the brain time to rehab itself.
Well, the good news is that there might be a shot at redemption against Stipe. Jon Jones has expressed an interest in potentially fighting Stipe at heavyweight. What are your thoughts on this potential matchup? Is this a fight that you'd like to see?
I think I'm just a big believer in what Jon Jones can do. I told everybody a long time ago, nobody beats Jon Jones but himself. That's just it. Nobody studies as hard as Jon Jones looking at tape. He knows what his fighter is going to do before he does it. And Jon can beat anybody out there. I think he's going to just continue to dominate the light heavyweight division if he wants, but he wants to step up for Stipe. We just can't get hit by those big punches. And other than that, I think Jon could dominate that fight. But like everything, heavyweights, one punch makes a difference. So I would think that I would like to see Jon just dominate the light heavyweight division first, and then try to move up to heavyweight down the road.
Jon said that this would be the challenge of a lifetime if he faced Stipe. I mean, the thing is, he's already faced and beaten some extremely elite competition in his career, including Daniel Cormier, who had a very good run at heavyweight. If this fight were to happen at some point, maybe somewhere later down the line, how would you sort of compare Stipe to Jon's past opponents? Do you think this would be Jon's toughest fight to date?
Well, the scariest fight to date, because it's one punch power. It's a strength of someone that can be on top of you. Stipe is very, very strong, and because of that, the one punch power, it's scary. It makes people second guess what they're doing. So for that reason, it's kind of the scariest fight in that way. But it's kind of like fighting Johnson or anybody else like that. If you can avoid the big punches, then Jon Jones can dominate.
It's an interesting chess match that you've got here. A lot of people thinking about how Jones would be able to beat Stipe. You mentioned dodging the big punches, but do you think there's any other aspects in the game that Jon could utilize to beat Stipe, apart from getting out of the way of those big punches?
Oh, yeah. From long range, Jon Jones he makes people second-guess stepping in because he's throwing kicks with their legs. You're not sure when you get in there if you really want to come in because the elbows are going to hit you. And then you're always constantly worried about his own takedowns. And Jon has some very unorthodox, unpredictable type of ways to throw people. Some very good overhooks into throws, things that they're not used to seeing as much. And once Jon's on top of somebody, it's basically a bloody mess.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again. I mean, while nothing's confirmed, things may be looking positive, and a lot of people are expecting Jon Jones to be back sooner rather than later. Have you heard anything recently regarding the future of Jon Jones's career and how soon we may potentially see him back?
No, I thought it was coming sooner, but all of a sudden it's kind of gotten dead. No one's giving us any answers, and I know Jon was in the gym this morning training, looking pretty good. And he's actually said he's just kind of enjoying spending time with his daughters and helping them out with school and stuff, and kind of just enjoying the family thing right now. So I don't even know if Jon's in any rush at the moment. I know he's always willing to fight somebody, but he's gonna have to get this suspension out of the way and go forward.
Last couple of questions, Wink, and we'll let you go. Really appreciate the time. Just while we're talking about the heavyweight division, what did you think about the fight between Fabricio Werdum and Travis Browne? You were in Browne's corner for the original fight. What did you make of this one?
I think Travis Browne forgot about all the footwork he used to have, honestly. I think first off, they're big guys that can hurt people, very, very easily. I think Travis Browne, he got away with calling timeout, and people can say bad things about him, but he got away with it. That's not on him. That's on the ref. So, and everybody stopped. Werdum could have jumped on him himself. So it's kind of like that when you're in a fight. You win the fight however you can. So if you try to get the guys in the guy's head as a Nick or Nate Diaz do, that's fair because it's a fight. The guy's trying to give you brain damage. So posturing and acting in different ways, I don't see as a bad thing. It's all about winning the fight.
It's interesting how you mentioned Travis Browne's footwork because Brian Stan, obviously another Jackson Winkeljohn alum, tweeted after the fight, "I remember sparring with Travis Browne. His footwork was confusing and his kicks massive. Now both are gone." What do you make of Travis's style and sort of progression as a fighter since leaving the team?
Well, I think he went to a boxing coach and tried to learn just that style. And he's put all of his eggs in that one basket. And the problem with that is MMA is big, and sometimes you have to pull other tools out of your toolbox. If the few tools as you decide to bring to the party don't work, you're kind of screwed. But if you have access to more tools and more variety, you can do more things. And then the unpredictableness comes along, and it makes even those first tools that much more effective.
Well, Brian's not the only one who feels Travis had the most success during his time in Albuquerque. A lot of analysts have echoed the same sentiments. Does a part of you wish that Travis had stayed at Jackson Winkeljohn so that you could continue to help him improve? And also, would you welcome him back if he ever decided to return?
Well, I would never say never, but at the moment, I don't want him. It's just one of those things that I don't dislike him, but he left, and I have my other guys now that I'm focused on. And he left, and he said some things that he's learning, these skills he didn't have before. But I'll never say never, because he left. Apparently, he felt we did something wrong. So we need to look at that and see if us as coaches or me as a coach did something wrong. So there's always a possibility that we can learn from our mistakes. But right now, I'm focused on our other heavyweights, and I'm not sure we have room for him at the gym.
Wow. All right. Well, that's interesting. Coach, before we let you go, obviously we want to end on a positive note. Just give us a quick update on the Aussies at Jackson Winkeljohn's. We always like to know how many there are. We're obviously going for that goal of about 1,000 Aussies, maybe 2,000, whatever. Either way is good. How many Aussies are there at the gym at the moment? How many are bunking there? And also, you mentioned there was a very good Aussie who had some great wrestling that he had, even though he didn't really have a wrestling background. Do you remember the young fighter's name by any chance?
Daniel, and I you know what? That's kind of funny you brought it up because I told you that last time. I said I'm gonna make sure I have it and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have it. You know what? If we get back to this interview later, I can get it to you. But Daniel is doing very, very well, and I think he could be the future of the sport. So I'm gonna get his name to you soon.
So first name Daniel. We just need confirmation on the surname, right?
Yep, you sure do.
All right. If you text us later on, we will give him a good plug on the episode later on. But, Coach, we always appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. We always appreciate insight. Guys, make sure to follow him on Twitter at MMA Coach Wink. And, of course, go to the website, jacksonwinkeljohn.com. Check out the gym. The gym needs more Aussies. There needs to be a bigger Aussie flavor down there in Albuquerque. There's bunks. You can stay there. You can train there full-time and really hone your skills as a fighter. And you've got the best minds and the best fighters and the best trainers here at the gym all the time. So, Coach, we always appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.